G'day again, fellas. Hope that you had a splendid week. I certainly did, all things considered. Although, in saying that, the same can't be said for Supercoach this round. So hopefully you did a little better than me. 2-3-3-8. That's probably about on par with Supercoach George this week. And Eno and JD put about another 100 on me. So JD's sort of getting away. I think he might be about a 160 or so. He's around that 38,000 mark ahead. Eno's probably another 100 ahead of him, and maybe even a little more, 150. And then George is out of sight at about 650 ahead with only 6 rounds to go. So got some work to do, to say the least. So we'll see how we go. I'm going to try and make these videos a little bit shorter, a little bit more compact. So you're going to jump into the team and just see where everything fell apart. So my original plan was to bring in Jordan Dawson. Man, I can't even explain how pissed off I would have been if I had actually brought in Jordan Dawson for 620k or whatever it was. And then he doesn't ton up for the first time. And I think it was like, I don't even know, 10 or 11 weeks or something. He got an 80. That would have crushed me. And I was going to get rid of Roses. -8. What a hilarious score that is. Fortunately, well, no, not fortunately. I don't know, sort of. I didn't end up doing that, which I'm happy about because I know that would have just pissed me off probably even more than what ended up happening. So I couldn't do that because Darcy Parish was a late out. And not just a late out, he's out for 4 weeks, so he has to go. So basically ended up with like a choice of a midfielder and a defender, and it was very difficult to decide because you've got Dawson who's crushing it, you got Lloyd who's crushing it, and if you pick up, I couldn't obviously pick up both of them, but if you pick up even just one of them, then you severely compromise yourself in the other line. So if you went Dawson, then the best you could get was like a Travis Boak or something like that, and then maybe like a Hopper, no, not a Hopper, a Tom Green. And then if you went for Laird, then the best you could get was like and to be fair, it would have actually been not too bad, Luke McDonald, if you really actually wanted to have a lot of money in the bank, or like a Jake Lloyd. So I think, particularly at the start of the season, Jake Lloyd would have been a really popular option. I tried to start him. It's just the fact that he was injured in the first round and I didn't. But I think he's actually not a bad option. He's actually done quite well over the last few weeks. And, of course, his scoring history is basically second to none in the defensive line. In saying that, this is a year unlike many others. I don't think he's ever averaged, or at least not recently, these sorts of numbers that these guys are pulling out, with Sicily, Sinclair and Hewitt going over the 110 mark. Anyway, I could have gone Dale or I could have gone Doherty. And this was what kind of ruined my round, particularly when something bad happens at the start. So I went for Bailey Dale. I had a look at his scoring history, and he's coming off the 132. You always have a little bit of recency bias there. That 134, I should say. And I was just like, wow. I had this guy in my team last year, and it's always hard to bring in someone that disappoints you, which ends up being the case. If I look at my team right now, last year I had Dale, disappointment. Bray Shaw was a disappointment last year. Short was a disappointment and a disappointment again. And Walsh was actually a bit of a disappointment and yet again is disappointing. So always hard to bring in someone that has disappointed you in the past, but hey, I haven't let it stop me. Hopefully I learn from that in the future and never bring in these players again, except Bray Shaw absolutely pumped with the 132 and it's actually looking the goods. But that remains to be seen. 6 rounds to go. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is the whole round capitulated because I had a choice between Dale and Doherty. So there's only about like a 10 or 12k difference between them. So not anything grand. And I'm hoping that in the future I can just afford someone by that margin, and therefore it meant that it was worth it. We'll see if that ends up happening. There's a chance. Very likely that there's going to be an out of some kind, and that's hopefully that money, extra money that I kind of opted for, does come in handy. So anyway, I've choose Bailey Dale. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go Dale and Brazier. I think out of the different combinations that exist, that's probably the best one. You know, I think it was better than a Laird and Lloyd. I think it was better than a Dawson and Boak. for example. So I was like, well, yeah, I'll go for like 2 solid, possibly M8 and D6 options, at least for the last 6 rounds. But the problem was Doherty could have been one of those. And Doherty is a potential like D3 option for the next 6 rounds, particularly after he's just gone 130. And I knew he would have done well against West Coast. That did not shock me. So I had Dale in there as like my default option. And what happened is I was watching the game, the pre-game, super excited for the game. I thought it was going to be awesome. Bulldogs versus Sydney. Both teams need a win. And there was a late out. It was Braden Campbell, I think it was. He was a late out, and they were bringing in Ryan Clark. And Ryan Clark had tagged Jack Sinclair just 2 weeks ago or something like that, and he'd done a number on him. And they panned to John Ralph during the pre-game, and John Ralph drops this bombshell that Ryan Clark's been named. He's taking Braden Campbell's spot, so watch out Bailey Dale. And I thought, poofed. As if they're going to put Ryan Clark on Bailey Dale in defence. Like, Bailey Dale is no Jack Sinclair in terms of like what he can do and the impact he can have on a game, which was perhaps a little bit naive for me to think that, and maybe not even true. However, that's what I was thinking. And I was like, out of all the options, why wouldn't you put Ryan Clark, if he's going to play a tagging role, to someone like a Bontempelli or a Jack McRae or even a Liberatore, the way he's playing at the moment. I was like, there's no way they would waste him and put him in that spot. Anyway, I was like, there's the lockout rule. You have time to make these decisions. So I waited, and I was like, look, if I see Ryan Clark going to Bailey Dale before the game starts, I'll swap it to Doherty. So that's what I did. And I waited for the game to start, and I was watching on TV. I wasn't even streaming on Foxtel, and this actually crushed me. I went to bed so frustrated, and so actually, like, perpetually cursing as I went to sleep, and it reflected in my horrific nightmares. That's, the level that this stuff can kind of have an influence or impact on me, which is quite sad, but that's the reality. Anyway, as it's going to the centre bounce, I see there's a scuffle at the start of the game, and I go, uh-oh, don't tell me Ryan Clark's, already starting shit with Bailey Dale. Then they pan to the scuffle, and the centre bounce hasn't happened yet, and that's clearly what's happening. So I'm like, okay, sweet, I'll just quickly change this from Bailey Dale to Doherty, which I did. And then it's like, haha, just kidding, Bailey Dale is locked in. And I'm like, are you serious? Bailey Dale's locked in? But the centre bounce hasn't happened yet. I'm watching on the TV. There shouldn't be any delay. So, learnt my lesson. You don't roll the dice. And when Johnny Ralph says, watch out Bailey Dale, you listen to Johnny Ralph. You don't think, I know better than John Ralph. You go with what he says because he's gets paid the big bucks. Not really, but he gets paid money to give his opinion. I don't. One day maybe. And at the end of the day, he was right and I was wrong. So that was a big kick in the nuts, and I couldn't watch the game for that reason because I just saw, okay, Bailey Dale's not getting any of the appeal. This is embarrassing. This is terrible. So I didn't even look at the results because I knew it was going to frustrate me so much until like maybe 1 or 2 p.m. the following day. That's when I could muster the courage to check it. And I was convinced, given the little parts of the game that I saw, that he was going to go sub 50. Which is like, makes the Doherty trade, not that, already, I think, 54 point, or maybe more than that, about a 50 point difference. Maybe a 60 point difference is unsalvageable as it is. But when it's like a sub 50, it's just truly brutal and truly embarrassing if you have played Supercoach and you've had to deal with that from premium, particularly when you just bought in. So yeah, it was a big fat kick in the nuts, and made it a struggle of a week to even kind of get up and get pumped about Supercoach. But in all, I was actually pretty happy with the 76 when I finally ended up having a look. And I was like, oh yeah, whatever, right. He did significantly better than Ryan Clark at least. And it's not the end of the world, 76. It really isn't. He actually scored extremely well for the amount of touches and stuff that he had. So it was a good score for Supercoach, terrible score for fantasy. Anyway, there's my little rant for the video. because that was, I guess, on my mind. And thanks for being my therapist for a little moment there. Appreciate that. No, I'm not even kidding. Like, I genuinely do. Because yeah, that actually messed me up. It messed me up. Made me not want to play anymore. When you fail so hard like that, it's just, it hurts. It's a dagger to the heart. So anyway, didn't work out there, but it did work out with Bray Shaw. He made up for it. I watched this game. I think he was going quite terribly at halftime, and then he actually just, or maybe even quarter time, but yeah, he actually just put his stamp of authority on this game, and it was actually a joy to watch. He deserved a bigger score. I think he had 4 free kicks against, none for. So if you add, I guess, the 16 points to that score, it's around a 150, and that's an absolute ripper. Possibly the highest mid score of the round, if I'm not mistaken. I know Merritt had a big score, maybe like 147, something like that. So yeah, pretty stoked with Bray Shaw, and he's actually really is looking the goods. And it's not like he hasn't in the past, but this is the first time it's been like, yo, I think Bray Shaw is actually the man. Like, he's dominating, and he's running games out really well. Not that I think he's always sort of done that, but it's almost like he saves a little bit in the tank for that last quarter, and he just puts it on him in the last quarter, which is pretty sweet from a Supercoach perspective, particularly if the game's in the balance in the end. So we'll see what happens, but I'm very, very happy with Bray Shaw at this point. And yeah, it'll take something pretty spectacularly shit for me to change my opinion on him. So those are the 2 dudes I've brought in, and those were my feelings around them two. But yeah, Goldie solo rucking and putting it on Darcy Cameron was absolutely sick. That was so sweet. I actually only watched the second half because I was like, no way will North Melbourne be competitive, and then they were looking like they were going to win. I was like, if they win, then Goldie's going to like be playing ruck, like 80% centre bounces or something, because they're rotating in with Callum Coleman-Jones. But yeah, he just had obviously an epic performance. Had 2 goals in the first half, and kept on with it as well, and got a 120. So that was gangster. He's my favourite player if I could choose one player to do well. One, because he's like a pretty big pod, but he's just hilarious. He's like 34, and he's just a classic Supercoach pick. It's just so epic that he got forward status this year, and like he's actually crushing it. And now he's got solo ruck, so he's a genuinely good option, a possible F6 option. That to me gives me a giggle, and that's what Supercoach is all about. When you have a classic player, kind of like a Darcy, but Darcy's like way more highly owned. Well, I'm surprised it's only 13%, but it's still double Goldie. I love when you have a player that's not highly owned, and he's like kind of funny, like a 34-year-old Todd Goldstein who's now Supercoach relevant. Like, that is just the best. That's the best. So anyway, we know that Clayton Oliver is out, so I'm going to just get into the teams. And I've already got these green ticks here, so it's actually looking like we have survived the carnage. And Clayton Oliver's out, obviously. Everyone's going to have him, so who cares? But I needed Jacob Ware to play. After GWS got smoked, I was a little bit worried. And I've also just read that the Bulldogs have a bunch of COVID outs. So hopefully that doesn't play a major role, or like it's not, some breaking news. Like even after the teams have sort of come out. So a bit disappointed that Tim English is named again, because I don't have him, and a lot of people do. But against Paddy Ryder, maybe not expecting him to have the biggest game from the ruck point of view. But if you know Tim English well, you know that his ruck influence actually isn't the most pivotal thing to his scoring. And he can kind of get a few little tip-tappers. Not hit, he doesn't necessarily make a heaps of Supercoach points from hit-outs to advantage necessarily. He can actually get 25 disposals in a game, and then gets those hit-outs and free kicks in the ruck to sort of stat pad and pump his score up. So be interesting to see what happens. A lot of people brought in Jack Steele. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, I don't think there's anyone really from the top that's relevant. Matt Crouch omitted. I guess that could be slightly beneficial for Rory Laird. And then nothing really going on for Collingwood. Jack Crisp really needs to have a big game, and to be honest, versing Adelaide is the perfect chance for that. So I need a fucking big week, man. I need a big week, dude. It's been a while coming, and it's been brutal the last maybe three or four weeks. Had that one that just killed my score, but hoping to kind of make some ground up if possible over the next few weeks in particular. I mean, I need to. There's only 6 weeks left. Like, come on. I need to have some good weeks. So happy that Jacob Ware kept his spot. He's been named on the bench, and I just thought to myself, shit, he might have been named as an emergency, but he hasn't been, so he will be my replacement for... Oh, you know who is... Owens. I didn't see him. No, he's not been named. That's his name, right? Owens? I've been reading that Owens is back and he was going to get named. Some guy on Fox Sports wrote that, and I was like, sweet, I'll loop him, because that would have been really helpful with Clayton Oliver out. But I suppose a lot of people won't actually, or could potentially not have a loop, or be looping Morris Rioli or something like that. And that would be, I think, a lot worse than Jacob Ware, who got an 80 just 2 weeks ago, or 88 or something. So hopefully he can do something similar. Brisbane is not the best team to be versing, but not the worst team either. So we'll see how that goes. Morris Rioli's omitted. That could be a problem for some people. I think a decent amount of people might have been relying on him for Clayton Oliver cover, so that could be a big benefit. And we got Goldie in the ruck. He's now sharing it with Callum Coleman-Jones, like almost as if Sherry was still there, which is a bit sad. Don't care about Roses. Connor McDonald has kept his spot. Boom. Don't mind that. And then nothing else really is of note in terms of the outs. Nick Natanui is out. So if you've got a ruck that was going to be going up against him, Jai Cully is... Oh shit. He's in. He must be playing. He's playing. So a lot of people will have Jai Cully also for... If they brought him in. I don't think he's that highly owned, is he? I didn't even bring Jai Cully in. I was supposed to bring him in last week for Roses, but yeah, it didn't work out like that as previously stated. So anyway, the actual matches this week, I mean, all the matches at the moment in the AFL are fucking sick. Well, there's $1 for the swear jar. Oh, if anyone doesn't know and they're watching this for the first time, $1 every time I curse goes into the swear jar, and that's going to get raffled at the end of the year to anyone that's subbed. So yeah, if you want a chance at what is at least $9, sub, and you're in the raffle. There's another 6 weeks to go, so probably be about, who knows, $20 plus for your sake. Hopefully $15 or less for my sake, but we'll see. Alrighty, team's looking pretty good. And what I was saying was AFL for the moment is actually looking incredible. Like the fixtures, because the top 8 is tight, it makes so many games so important, and it's so sick to have that, because we haven't had that for quite a while. I wouldn't say. Maybe not necessarily in like the top 8 race. There's always like a little bit of push and shove between 2 or 3 teams, but it's like 5 or 6 teams could make top 8, and then it's like, again, 5 or 6 teams can make top 4. So like it's so important every single game at the moment, and it's just like, for example, Carlton Geelong, that is a brilliant match. It sucks that it clashes with Sydney Fremantle. What the saved myself $1 there, but why would you put those at the same time? Oh, that's annoying. I don't even know which one of those I'll watch, but probably Carlton Geelong. I reckon Carlton might do them. Western Bulldogs, St Kilda, 2 teams kind of on the ropes, losing games they shouldn't be. I think Western Bulldogs coming off the big loss against Sydney last week, and St Kilda the loss to Fremantle. So that should be actually a pretty sweet game, hotly contested contest, as well as vying for the top 8 position. Adelaide versus Collingwood, it's just another one of those kind of throwaway games. Collingwood's likely going to win, but it's interesting. Supercoach-wise, we've got Dawson and Laird, and then we've got Crisp for Collingwood, seeing how he goes. I don't know if there's any other relevant Collingwood player, to be honest. Not one that springs to my mind, other than maybe Darcy Cameron. And then Brisbane versus GWS at the same time. I think I'd probably watch Collingwood versus Adelaide. However, GWS versus Brisbane earlier this year was actually incredible at the start of that match. Hawthorn West Coast. Could you make a shitty game in the AFL this year? Probably not. Melbourne, Port Adelaide. That's a good one actually as well. Playing in the Northern Territory, interesting. I like Petrarca in that game. Obviously, with Clayton Oliver out, you expect him to get probably even more centre bounce attendances than usual. So bullish on him. And then Essendon Gold Coast, very bullish on Took Miller, only if he doesn't get tagged by Caldwell. However, I think when you tag someone like Lachie Neale, he's not necessarily like that gut-running beast. He runs fair bit, but not like a Took Miller or a Sam Walsh or a Bray Shaw. So, okay, to the captains. What are we doing? I've already set it up, to be honest. I'm going to VC McRae and Captain Oliver. Keep it simple. I think McRae's due for a big score. He hasn't gone big for a little while, but it's like, he does, and then you feel silly for not having captained him. 149 the last time he versus St Kilda, and he went 155 4 rounds ago, and before that his big score was 7 rounds before that. Not ideal, but for some reason I just think they don't usually do a tagging job in the midfield in particular. Well, not at all, St Kilda. So I reckon he's a good option as captain. RVC anyway. Although, I don't know. I feel like I said I would keep it simple and just go like with the percentage option. And I think that's what I'm going to do. And then I know that they didn't tag Lachie Neale, GWS last time they played, even though Matt DeBoer was playing. I don't even think he's been named. And I think I like Lachie Neale. I think Lachie Neale, who has just been tagged and then won't be tagged, is going to be kind of keen. 164, bruh. Look at that. Kind of keen to put a big one on them. He might be like, shit, Bray Shaw's kind of getting within touching distance of the Brownlow, and that could spur him on because he's going to want to win that thing. I think he won one already, but he's going to want a second. And Bray Shaw's looking like, I think he's the favourite now. And wow, what a game he played last week. Super happy to have him in the team. Darcy could be an interesting option because Sydney don't have a ruckman. Do they have Hickey back? Let's have a little squeeze. They do have Tom Hickey back, so take that back. But yeah, for me, it's going to be McRae Neale. Just play it, keep it simple, and if it burns me, it burns me. But not going to get fancy. Those days are behind me for this season, and we're just going to kind of keep it simple. I mean, we've got Todd Goldstein in our forward line, for goodness sake. We can't get too more crazy than that. And hoping Jaden Short, I actually like that because he's a big problem for a lot of people. Still held in how many? Let's see what percentage of teams he's in. Still held in a high percentage of teams. I'm not sure why mate, I'm getting good at not swearing. I'm not sure why it's sort of not coming up. Have a look at alright. Not too sure what's going on here. Let's try this again. But yeah, he's in a reasonably high percentage of teams, I presume. But yeah, I think he's gone like 5 or 6 weeks now without ton of nut, which is sad. Not sure why this ain't working, but who cares. North Melbourne is a really good matchup for him. Okay, it's a good matchup for anyone. But for Jaden Short in particular, I thought West Coast would have been the match made in heaven. He had gone 150 against them before. But yeah, I'm bullish on him potentially outscoring Dawson this week. I don't know if Collingwood will tag Dawson, which is kind of important to slowing him down. But I mean, most of the time he's not tagged. It's not like he does most of the time go 140. It's like he does that way more often than what is you would think is humanly possible for a defender. But he usually goes around that 110 to 100 mark, and I'm hoping Jaden Shaw can go like for the first time in ages, like in that 110 to 120 mark. That would be so sweet, particularly with Clayton Oliver out and him in my midfield. It just looks super sweet if I could like get what, like, you know what? Well, how about just tons from everyone? How about that? Like, is that too much to ask? 88, 92, 91, 95, 77, what? 76, like 62. That's a joke. You know what I mean? 92 from Sicily, don't hate it though. But it's like, bruh, can I just have 1 week where like almost everyone performs instead of having like almost half the team go shit? Anyway, hopefully you guys did a little bit better than moi. But 6 weeks to go. And you know what? I'm still reasonably bullish on it. We've got 2 trades left. Considering I don't have to make a trade this week, or it doesn't seem like it, that means 5 weeks to go with 2 trades. And I think when I've got 4 weeks to go with 2 trades, I'm actually sitting pretty. And I'm pretty happy with that. Obviously, Darcy Parish falling out for 4 weeks sucked. But I did get to switch him up for Bray Shaw, and I like watching Bray Shaw. So we'll see how that goes. Story of the week, story of the round. What story of the round? I guess story of the round's kind of those matches, how interesting and compelling they are. So I've already sort of been through that. Story of the week is obviously last night, State of Origin. It was unbelievably epic. We had Cam Munster out. You know what? I haven't gone on a little rant or tangent for a few videos, but here we go, boys. I'm going for it. Boys. Here we go, boys. Okay, I'm going to give you the lowdown, boys. Here we go. So I'm going to take you back. Boys. We're going back to, how far are we going to go back? We're going to go back to 2019. And it's the decider. New South Wales and Queensland's the decider, boys. I'm in a small little town in Korea, and I'm watching. And I'm getting pumped up. Probably got work the next day. And I'm, teaching at a little school there. And it's a good time. Getting super bumped. I'm getting back to my, Australian roots, Queensland roots in particular. It's the decider, and it's an absolutely tight tussle. And typical State of Origin fashion, we've got New South Wales as the favourites going in, and everyone is expecting them to burn Queensland. Queensland's putting up a fight, and they're looking like they might actually hold on and win the game towards the end of the match. And then, I don't even remember what happens, but somehow Tedesco finds himself up the field, and they score an absolutely incredible try, one of the ages, in fact, and New South Wales ends up scoring to seal the decider, and they celebrate like madmen. I go to work the next day feeling like dog shit because I care. Okay? Cuts me deep. And then the next week, the next year, I should say, comes around. And this year is, well, it must have been 2020. Must have been 2020, boys. And this is the year of chaos. We don't know what's going on. When is it going to be? What's going on? I think they might have rescheduled it, put it to a strange time. Maybe even, that's right, they did it at the end of the season, I think. But it ended up, as all State of Origins are, an epic and most watched, most anticipated spectacle. And yet again, comes down to a decider. And New South Wales go into it being the favourites. And what it takes is a Cameron Munster masterclass. And this is important, we'll get to it later. But a Cameron Munster masterclass where everything he touches turns to gold. And he's like, sometimes people reach that, I don't like to say it, but sometimes I do, gold mode. And Munster was in gold mode. He was just, everything he touched turned to gold, like I say. And he was just making diamonds. Everything he did was just spectacular. It was perfection, personified. Through him, he was the one pulling the strings. And it was just a joy to watch, to bear witness to it. So after the Munster masterclass, we get back to 2021 the following year, and New South Wales wrap up the series in 2 games. And this causes concern, because it's been a while since something like that's happened, particularly to Queensland. Where the state with heart, we come back from behind, and we never give up. But when you go down 2-0 at the start of the series and give it up, then what are you thinking? You're thinking, shit, that's just not quite going to cut it. So it called for sweeping changes, big changes. And what they did is they got rid of the coach at the time. I actually don't even remember who the coach was. But anyway, they got rid of him. I think Malmaning was well gone by that time. I think it might have even been like Kevy Walters. I think they got him to do it. Something like that. I don't know. Anyway, they bring in Billy Slater, a man with no coaching experience whatsoever. He was a Melbourne Storm legend and a Queensland legend. That try that he scored, let's just watch that together. Boys. Let's check out the Billy Slater. Oh, check that out. There you go. That's how you know I'm a real fan. I've been watching Eno's videos, and it's come up number 1. And I may even tell you what, boys, if you listen to this still, I'm going to do FPL this year, because why not? Why not? I played it once before, but I think with Enno's help, he's been very helpful with his advice and stuff like that, and I recommend anyone else to do it. It'd be super sweet to like get the league going. There's a league that he's put in his description. You should definitely add yourself to it if you haven't. And yeah, playing FPL will be super sweet, so I'm just gonna do it, and might make some vids on it and stuff like that. Spice things up a little bit, see how we go. Anyway, let's have a look at this legendary Billy Slater try. Surely it's the first thing that comes up. No, it's not. They want to talk about his press conference and stuff. Best try ever. This really is spectacular. Alright, I'm going to open these sound settings. There you go, you can probably hear that, boys. But they're hitting me with some ads, blah, blah, blah. Hopefully they bounce, because we don't want to have to listen to those. Usually my ad block is just like boom, but you're going to have to listen to 15 seconds of black screen. Here we go, boys. This was legendary. This is what dreams are made of. A little Darren, I didn't even remember the Darren Lockyer grubber. And then boom over the top. And he comes and he gets it and he scores. Go Billy. What a burst. What a beast. Look at the smile on his face. He's a youngster back then. That was incredible. That is the all-time that's the greatest Origin try of all time. I mean, actually that's a bit stiff to say that, because you got the Wally Lewis legendary try. Maybe that's number one, but tell you what, that's right up there. I don't remember this little grubber. He's offside too. It's kind of funny. He's clearly offside, poor bugger. I don't remember him being offside, that's for sure. Is he? Oh, it's sort of close. I mean, you got that. It's called a parallax error, actually. And, yeah, if you know how your angles work, it's actually on short, said any Queenslander that had that knowledge, whether it's correct or not. Oh, that's just legendary. Doesn't get any better than that. But anyway, that's Billy Slater for you. He's Queensland through and through. He made the epic moments. And he's the all-time professional. Does not leave a stone unturned, as you might say. And they employ him as coach, but he's never actually coached anyone before. So I'm like, oh, I don't know about that. Like, really? But then I found out how meticulous he was with everything that he did, and he really is like the all-time professional. So I was like, all right, give him a go, whatever. And they come out in that first Origin game as underdogs as usual, but the intensity in the NRL these days is something to behold. I am telling you, particularly in the Origin games, but you still see it to a similar level when you have like a Penrith versus an Eels, or a Penrith versus a Melbourne Storm. Those top teams, maybe even the Cowboys might bring it this year, we'll see. But the intensity that we're seeing at the moment in rugby league is like special, particularly the Origin. It's like something is in the air, it's almost like a spiritual thing. And the way those guys run at each other and the brutality is like something I don't think I've ever seen before. And it takes someone like Billy to instill that spirit in you that just comes out, and it's like two people going to war, but it's like a one spirit versus another. Like they're all, even though they're different people, like they're a team, obviously, but a team in spirit, and the spirits collide, and it's like, who wants it more? It really is something truly, truly special. When the New South Wales and Queensland teams go to battle, it's spectacular, it really is. So in that first game, that's the best way I could sort of describe it. And Queensland ended up getting over the top, but also, even in the face of that brutality, the skill that's on display, like the poise that those players show at times is, just otherworldly. It's incredible. It really is incredible. So Queensland get home in a very close contest in classic Queensland fashion, under, I guess, pressure at the end, and they hold on and they win. And then they go and play in Perth to try and steal the series, and they end up losing to New South Wales. which is a massive pity for anyone who's a Queensland fan. They ended up being a bit of a blowout, and then you see Jerome Luai just like waltz in for a try in like the most un-Origin fashion, or at least the standard that had been set up until that point. To just see him waltz in like that, it's like, that's pathetic. I'm turning this shit off. Anyway, comes down to the decider. Comes down to Billy Slater's moment. Billy Slater, the debut coach, not just of Origin, but the coaching period. And it's a classic performance. And the way these two teams come out, like, you thought that round one, the way I described it, was bad, or, brutal, or epic. This is a whole nother level. This is the decider being played in Queensland. And the commentators were saying that every single person was on their feet. Now, you just have to imagine that. Like, how are you feeling about something when you go to a match or any type of event and you're actually on your feet? So every single person in the entire stadium's on their feet. And this is like whilst the ball's being kicked off. That is true investment. And they're going crazy. They're getting super, super into it. Like, as much as I guess is what is humanly possible. And it's packed out. There's not a spare seat in the house. And these people are fixated on it, and they're almost, in a way, as kind of absurd as it might sound, there for blood. They want to win bad at all costs, just like the players do. So that ball gets kicked off, and these guys run at each other, and they collide in like the most, fiery fashion that you could imagine. It's truly brutal. And it doesn't take long for one guy to get absolutely smoked. Some dude like runs his head literally nose first into the side of this guy's skull, and he gets basically knocked out, flat on his back, trying to get up and run it off, but his legs are wobbly and he's stumbling everywhere. He's out of there. So they take him off the field. He doesn't come back. They kick the ball down the field on that very set. So this is just 30 seconds, a minute later. And there's like literally 6 guys coming for one dude, and they all run in. And unfortunately, one of the team of the 6 gets taken out by his own player. He gets knocked in the head, and he's literally knocked out stiff with his legs hanging in the air, stiff as wood. And then he goes off. He's off injured. And only a matter of minutes later, another guy gets walloped in the head, and he's done. He tries to get up, and he's got chicken legs. So it's like 3 horrific concussions. And like, you see a concussion when like 2 people are actually fighting each other, and they're actually, in a lot of circumstances, less brutal than these ones, because these guys are running at each other at full pace. So when you've got that velocity involved, the concussions can sometimes be far more severe. And that's what we saw last night, when those guys put their heart and soul out there and did everything they possibly could. And the intensity is just a whole other level. I mean, these guys are truly sacrificing themselves. It's insane. So, Queensland score. It's a wonderful try, beautiful poise, like I had mentioned, very technical. And then New South Wales start to win the battle of the grind. And they score a try of their own. Very, very nice try, I must say. And then score another try. So they're basically up 2-1. And then it's looking like they might run away with it, and Queensland will be left to eat dust. But they managed to weather the storm, and on the stroke of half time, they score a try of their own and essentially make it 2-2 in terms of the tries and even the contest. And it's relevant because what stands out to me, and the most important thing about this entire contest, was this: they interviewed the coaches at halftime. I'm not a big fan of interviewing coaches or players at halftime whilst they're like involved in a contest. However, this was very telling. They went to one guy, the New South Wales guy, the favourite, the one who was expected to win this match, who was up by a measly 2 points. 2 points in NRL is like basically nothing. So anyway, he's still ahead. And he was actually walking down the tunnel to the room and didn't even know that the other team had scored a try. So he didn't know the contest had basically been levelled. And he was like, shit, I was actually walking down to the bloody sheds, and I didn't even know that the contest was levelled. And I basically just said to the boys, hey, look, keep your heads up, boys. Keep it technical, and, we'll grind it out and we'll win the game. And then they went to Billy. Good old Billy on debut. The man who leaves no stone unturned. And you could see it in his eyes, and you could see it in his heart, just by looking at him. The passion, and how much he cared, and how much he wanted this, and how much he had just allowed this energy that was inside of him to resonate with the team and with the boys. It was truly something to behold, and it was in that moment that I feel like I had at least, been put at ease, knowing that there is nothing more that could have been done or said by any single human being than what he had just said to the boys. And he basically just said, like, look, tonight is going to take a truly Queensland performance. And he didn't say this, but nobody knows a Queensland performance like Billy Slater. You guys just saw the try. He is the one who makes the moments. He's that boy who grew up wishing and dreaming of this moment, and he made that moment happen, one of the most spectacular of all time. You know what I mean? Like, that moment would have meant so much to him, not for himself, but for what it would have meant for the people that he did it for. Like a true Queenslander. It sounds like a little bit crazy to say that, but that's a little bit of the mind of Billy Slater, I think. So he basically said, it's going to take a Queensland performance tonight. We're down two guys, because two guys got severely concussed. And, we're going to have to really dig deep, and it's all about the heart and the passion, and you're going to have to let that kind of come out of you and put it out there on the line. You're going to put yourself on the line and allow that, spirit is one to take over. And if we're going to ever win this, we're going to need to have each other, and it's going to be us as a team, and we're going to do it for Queensland. And it means something different when someone who's saying that's done it themselves before. So he said that, and I was just like, bro, we're going to win for sure. Like, you hear one dude being like, oh, I didn't even see the try, bloody hell, well, just keep it technical, boys. And then you got the other guy who's like rallying the boys in the final hour in a time of need, and it was so evident in the second half. New South Wales didn't even go near scoring. They didn't come close, and it was all Queensland. Queensland dominated. It's still close up until the end. Like, you weren't too sure if New South Wales would get like a lucky break or something would happen. Would there be a penalty, something like that? But Queensland scored a wonderful try to put themselves ahead, and then in kind of like the last 2 minutes, the captain of the New South Wales team, probably the best player in the league, maybe the best player to ever play the game, by some pundits' measure. I would actually say by my own measure that's the case. But his name, Nathan Cleary, tried a little chip over the top and just boom, swallowed up by Ben Hunt, who's not the fastest player, but he got the ball and he sprinted as if he was Usain Bolt, and no one was ever catching him. After he got the ball and could see the try line in his sights, he goes down and scores that try. It's an ultimate redemption moment for the guy. It was a great moment, and it was what sealed the victory, and it was just a most epic and wonderful experience to be a part of. And then they pan to Billy Slater in the box, and you just see the passion in that man's eyes, and you could tell that what he gave those guys and what was able to happen because of, I guess, what he was able to give of himself to the team. He was out there. They were all out there. There was other legends in the box: Jonathan Thurston, Cameron Smith, Darren Lockyer. I don't think he was there, but I'm sure he was there in spirit. But yeah, those guys, you could see they had really lifted the team, and the team was not just themselves, but all of the Queenslanders that had gone before them were somehow channeled into, being there with them. And it really was kind of like that. It was special. It was really special. And I think the only person that could have ever allowed that to happen and to breathe life to it was that man, Billy Slater. So, couldn't have asked for a better appointment than for him to come in and bring the glory back to Queensland. So with that, that wraps up the series, and we're heading into the final leg of the Supercoach series, and we're hoping that we can channel that type of epic energy that he did, and it can bring us some fortune, as it did last night for the boys in Maroon. So, wishing you guys the best in your endeavours, and hopefully we can all share in a bit of the spoils that are there for us, if only we can channel the right energy and put it all together as they did. And with a bit of luck, we can all share in the spoils. So, good luck to you.